Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're going to be discussing Baby Man from the Rollin Crips and how he would shoot and kill a police officer's son who he mistook for lled Hoover. Now Devin Davis, aka Baby Man, at the time was a 17-year-old active member of the Blocc Crips, and their hood is located on Normandy and Western Avenue. Now the Blocc Crips also are under the Rollin Crip Alliance umbrella. Now they heavily beef with the Hoovers, the lleds, the Mains, Inglewood families, NHPs, and other rival gangs. Now the lleds, one of their main rivals are the Hoovers, which they had a very violent beef with, which has been going on for decades. Now this war between them and the Hoovers has resulted in many lives lost on both sides. And in the 2000s, this beef would take the life of an innocent teen. 18-year-old Brian Tonelli was the son of a well-known homicide detective named Wally Tonelli. Now Brian and his family stayed off St. Andrews Street, directly in the heart of the lled Gangster Crips neighborhood. Now Brian was not a gang member, but he loved wearing different baseball caps. One of his favorite baseball caps to wear was the Houston Astros cap. Now this particular hat is worn by the Hoovers. Now Brian's best friend, named Joshua Henry, always warned Brian about wearing his hat in certain areas. Now because Brian's family stayed in the lled's hood, him wearing his hat wasn't really a big issue because the lleds and the Hoovers were known allies. But sadly, Brian had no idea that this choice would eventually cost him. On May 10th, 2007, Brian, along with his girlfriend, Ariel, had been hanging out in the neighborhood all day. Now later that day, Brian would link up with another homeboy named Walter Bridges. Not only miles away in downtown were a group of Rollin Crips, which included Baby Man and No Brains, along with his girlfriend named Jessica. Now that day, Baby Man stated that he wanted to run into some Hoovers. So his big homie, No Brains, would tell his girlfriend Jessica to head over to Normandy so they can find some Hoovers. But eventually, the Rollin put into the lled Gangster Crips hood, and Baby Man would slip on some black gloves, and in his waistband, he had a chrome 38. Now Brian Tonelli was walking up the block with his bike along with Walter walking down 80th Street, when out of nowhere, Baby Man hopped out the truck. Baby Man would instantly yell out, "lled," and then he opened fire. Both Brian and Walter took off running in the opposite direction. Baby Man would let off 4 shots, and Brian would be struck in the back of the head, cause him to collapse in the grass. Immediately, Baby Man hopped back into the truck, and they fled the scene. Another teenager named Matthew Warren, who saw the entire shooting, came running up to check on Brian. He would then tell his grandfather to call 911 as he attempted to apply pressure to the back of Brian's wound. Now still fighting for his life, Brian Tonelli would tell Warren that he was tired and he just wanted to go to sleep. Eventually, Brian's girlfriend, Ariel, would come running out and she would see Brian laid on the ground. Eventually, the EMTs would arrive on scene and they would transport Brian to the hospital. And sadly, the very next day, Brian would be pronounced dead. Now afterwards, police would start their investigation, and they would first interview a man by the name of Vincent Jones. Now Vincent Jones would tell police that he saw Baby Man at the park not long after the shooting. He claimed that Baby Man seemed jumpy and nervous, and he would go on to state that Baby Man stated that he would likely be going to jail. Vincent would also ID Baby Man as an lled Crip. Also, he would ID him in a photo lineup. Now 4 days later, a highway patrolman would arrest No Brains along with his girlfriend Jessica after they would crash into a light pole. Now No Brains would be charged for violating his probation and also being held for a burglary charge. Now while in custody, police would interrogate No Brains' girlfriend Jessica, who would identify No Brains as one of the suspects in the Brian Tonelli murder. Now only a few months later, they would arrest an ex-bounty hunter blood by the name of Leonardo Langley on gun possession charges. Now police would run ballistics on this weapon and it would be a match to the same gun used in the murder of Brian Tonelli. Now Langley would go on to tell police officers that he purchased the gun from a Crip named No Brains for only $50. Police would then show Langley a photo, and Langley would ID No Brains in that photo lineup. Now, eventually, police would arrest Baby Man in early 2008. Now, during the interrogation, he would break down telling Detective Skaggs that he was high on ecstasy and that he was afraid of his big homie, No Brains. He claimed that No Brains gave him the gun and that when he did do the shooting, his eyes was closed, so he didn't see exactly where he was shooting. Baby Man would eventually start to get on Detective Skaggs' nerve, and he would ask the officers for something to drink. And Detective Skaggs would respond, "Fuck you. You killed the cop's kid." Now, after this situation, the detectives would place Baby Man into a cell with No Brains with a recording device. Once in the cell, Baby Man would ask No Brains if his girlfriend Jessica had been talking to the police. Now, No Brains would go on to tell Baby Man it wouldn't even be a case if he didn't run his mouth. Now, once their trial took place, all the same witnesses that came forward before would testify to the jury about what they knew and what they saw the day of that shooting. Now, No Brains would testify himself, but he would state that he was out of town at the time of his murder. Now, by the end of the trial, Baby Man and No Brains would be found guilty of first-degree murder, would both be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. I would like to thank everybody for tapping in, and I'll see y'all next time.